He is the Joe Biden of boxing. This is Mike from Esno50 TV talking about boxing. Now, I know it's been a while since I posted the last video, but there's a lot of things going on. As you're aware, COVID's going on and everything, a lot of stuff is going on. But I'm going to let you know about that soon because I've got some big news to announce. And I'm going to announce it probably within the next week, hopefully, if things go well. But until then, let's talk about Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. Everyone is saying that Kell Brook is finished. He was done. He left his promoter. He left his trainer. He was out there literally on his own, fighting and trying to claim back some dignity, some pride, and most importantly, the respect that he thinks he lost because he had those defeats to Triple G and Errol Spence. And you know what? After the fight, after all that's said and done, I think that Kell Brook handled himself well. He was winning the first, I would say, the 2-3 rounds, and I think he was performing well. Kell Brook doesn't have to hold, he can hold his head up high because he just fought a better, skillful, technical fighter as in Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is just a better fighter than Kell Brook. That's all it comes down to. People can look at it and say, oh, the fight ended early, and they look at it like that. But at the end of the day, these things can happen. Because you are a good fighter, it doesn't mean that you're going to be in fights that goes 12 rounds every single fight. You could be a good fighter and you could get hit with a good shot and that's it. It's over. It can happen. It's boxing. It's a fight. These things can happen. And because Kell Brook lost early with a great shot, it doesn't mean that he's a bad fighter or he's finished. The only way we're going to find out if Kell Brook is finished is if he fights someone like a Mikey Garcia, Furman, a Danny Garcia, or a B or C level fighter. That's the only way we're going to find out because there's no way you can find out somebody's done because he's lost to one of the pound for pound top fighters as in Terence Crawford. I'm being upfront. I wasn't a great Terence Crawford fan. Like, the first time I saw Terence Crawford is when he faced Ricky Burns. And, it wasn't like he didn't set any fires light in that fight. I wasn't looking at this thinking, whoa, this is going to be the next big thing. I'm just being honest. And a lot of people can be honest too and look at Terence Crawford and look, and no one can look at Ricky Burns and say, oh, that was a great fight or a great performance. But he got the job done. And the thing about Terence Crawford is that, and what I say is the difference, is that with Terence Crawford, he can make adjustments and he can do things and adapt his game to get the job done. And that's what he did with Kell Brook. It's not as simple as just moving to southpaw and it was done because Kell Brook has fought southpaws. Let's remember that his other defeats was against Errol Spence, who is a southpaw, and he did not get put down like that against Errol Spence, who many people are saying he's the best welterweight. And this was a peak Errol Spence, not a pre-car crash Errol Spence. But it was the maneuver and the tactics that Terence Crawford used while he was southpaw to win this fight. And in the third round, he was countering. He was doing double counters, triple counters. He was countering, triple counters, triple feint. He was trying to feint in Kell Brook, drawing him out, and then he'll do the looping right. And then in the fourth round, he changed it. He said he weren't doing that because he said, no, I'm going to get you first time. So then he was timing it, and then he changed it. So he timed his punch. So when Kell Brook throws, he will throw, and he moved into the correct position where he gets caught. Timofimo Lopez did the same thing with Commey in the Commey fight. When you do the toughest shots that you get hit with is the shots that you don't see coming. Those punches may not be a hard punch, but because it's something that you do not see and do not know is coming, then you get disorientated all the same much easier. He threw the shot, and while you're throwing the shot, He committed. As soon as you commit, that's it. If you get hit while you're committing into a shot, it's over. It's done. It's finito. And the ropes saved Kell Brook. If the ring was an extra 10 meters long, he would have been on the floor. He would not have been knocked out, but he would have been on the floor. And then from then, he was still disorientated, trying to get his bearings because he was disorientated. But Terence Crawford is a great finisher. He went in for the kill, and when he finishes, he's accurate with his shots. Every shot counts. He is the Joe Biden of boxing. He makes sure that every shot counted. And based on that, the fight had to get stopped. So you have to give Terence Crawford his dues. It's not about what Kell Brook did wrong, because he didn't do too much wrong in that fight. I cannot look at Kell Brook and say, oh, he made this mistake, he made that mistake, he did this mistake, he was tired, he was this. He didn't do much wrong against, other fighters, against Keith Thurman, against Danny Garcia, against other fighters. I think that he would have been winning and he would have done well. But against Terence Crawford, who can change tactics on the fly, who's got various different punch autonomy, it's a difficult fight. And the most toughest fighters are the ones that has a variation of different punches, and that's the main difference. The shot that he got hit with, Errol Spence would not have been able to hit him with that same shot. And we know this because he had 10 rounds to do it and he did not do it. So that's my opinion. Now, where does Terence Crawford go from here? First, I'm going to start with Brook. Where does Brook go from here? Now, Kell Brook, I think is a good chance he's going to retire. Based on that performance, I think he should carry on fighting at 147. But I don't know if the fights are going to be there at 147. And getting to 147 weight takes a lot of commitment, takes a lot of energy out of him. And I don't know if it's a fighter that is not a pound for pound or a world champion, he'll be willing to get up and do the sacrifices needed to do that fight. So I don't know if he's going to continue fighting. It might be a good chance that he retires. Unless the fight with Amir Khan, the Holy Grail, comes into play. But I think there's a good chance that he retires. But if he retires, you can say his career had some ups and downs, but I say it's more missed potential. But at the end of the day, he's a world champion. He became world champion. And not many boxers in boxing today, even though we have as many belts, can say that they became world champion. So, good luck to him, whatever he does. But one thing he can do, he can hold his head up high and say, do you know what? He did his best and he lost to the better man. Now, in regards to Terence Crawford, people want to criticize and say, he's fighting Manny Pacquiao, fighting Errol Spence. But look, let's look at it like this. Errol Spence just came back from a car accident. We don't know how he is going to be against Danny Garcia. So for all we know, it could be, game over. Danny Garcia could whoop him because he's not the same guy as before. So before we make judgment on Errol Spence and where he is at, we need to see how he performs against Danny Garcia. The pre-car crash, Errol Spence would beat Danny Garcia, no problem. But this is not the pre-car crash Errol Spence that we're talking about here. So that fight, that's something that we have to wait and see for. But Terence Crawford, he's looking to fight Manny Pacquiao. I think that's a smart move. Now, people want to criticize Manny Pacquiao because he's 40, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you're a world champion. And if you're a world champion with a legitimate belt, no excuses, mate. If you're old enough, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Simple as that. And Terence Crawford needs leverage right now. And having another belt at 147 will be leverage. Terence Crawford can go and face Manny Pacquiao, beat him, then you'll have two belts, the WBO and the WBA, and you have two belts. Errol Spence, if he beats Danny Garcia, we'll have the IBF and the WBC, and then, and only then, that fight will be pay-per-view, shared between ESPN and Showtime or Fox, and it will be for undisputed or the belts in 2021. It makes perfect sense. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, because I want to know about it. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about this whole event. Sorry I've been out for so long, but I've got some big news coming up. I'm going to share it with you. And the one thing I'm going to say, I'm back, baby, better than ever. So, anything else you want me to talk about? Let me know, and I'm going to talk about it.